The air in this room is like completely suffocating. It smells intensely of old musty books and roasted calfskin.
Yeah, and you're trapped, right? You are locked inside this antique oak-paneled bed, inside a literal stone fortress of a house.
Exactly. And outside, there's this massive northern blizzard just howling across the moors.
It's so claustrophobic.
It really is. So you lean your head back in this dim, oppressive light, and your eyes start to trace these names that have been scratched frantically over and over deep into the paint of the wood.
Catherine Earnshaw.
Right. Catherine Heathcliff's. Catherine Linton.
You're just reading them like a hypnotic chant over and over until finally your eyes close.
But the peace definitely doesn't last.
No, not at all. The wind outside reaches this terrifying fever pitch. And suddenly, this dry branch from a stunted fir tree starts scraping, just rattling against the lattice of the window pane.
Ugh, that relentless, maddening sound.
Exactly. So you reach out into the freezing darkness to break the branch off, but your fingers don't find wood. Instead, they close tightly around something else.
A small, ice-cold hand.
And then comes the voice. This melancholy wailing sob just echoing out of the snowy abyss. And it's begging, let me in, I'm Catherine Linton, I've lost my way on the moor.
It is the absolute peak of a Gothic nightmare. Just the sheer paralyzing terror of being grabbed from the dark.
Right.
But what happens next, like Lockwood's reaction to this, is what truly shocks the system. It's not just fear, it is sheer visceral violence.
It is deeply, deeply disturbing. I mean, Lockwood is our narrator for this scene, and he is driven completely mad by pure, unadulterated terror.
Oh, totally.
He tries to shake this spectral, childlike creature off his arm, but it clings to him with like a death grip. So in this blind panic, he pulls its wrist down onto the jagged, broken glass of the window pane, and he rubs it back and forth. He literally saws the ghost's wrist against the broken glass.
The cruelty of it is breathtaking. I mean, the terror strips away all his civilized veneer and makes him utterly barbaric.
Yeah, he just snaps. And yet the spirit just keeps weeping, let me in. And all this commotion wakes the master of the house, Heathcliff.
Right.
And Heathcliff's reaction provides the most chilling contrast imaginable to Lockwood's violent panic.
Because Heathcliff just bursts into the room, and his face is as white as the wall behind him. He's shaking so badly that the hot candle wax is just dripping all over his fingers, and he doesn't even seem to feel it.
He's completely beside himself.
Yeah. He violently kicks Lockwood out of the room, and then he wrenches open the window. He doesn't look for safety. He doesn't try to shut the storm out.
No, he leans into it.
Exactly. He bursts into these uncontrollable, heartbreaking tears, and he screams out into that empty, snowy night.
Come in, oh my heart's darling, hear me this time, Catherine, at last.
He is literally begging for the bloody phantom that just terrorized his guest to return to him. He doesn't just welcome the haunting, you know. He is desperate for it. Okay, let's unpack this. Because why on earth does Emily Brontë choose to introduce what is supposedly one of the most legendary love stories in all of English literature with a moment of terrifying, brutal physical violence and a bloody ghost?
It's a jarring start.
Right. I mean, we're told this is a romance,
Yeah.
but this opens like a slasher film.
Well, because it's exactly that tension that defines the entire narrative. The driving engine of this novel is not romantic bliss.
Not at all.
It is not sweet devotion. It is a dark, consuming, destructive obsession that outlives the grave itself. The violence and the haunting aren't interruptions to the romance, they literally are the romance. Brontë is using the mechanics of Gothic fiction not just to scare you, but to manifest psychological trauma as something physical.
So the ghost at the window isn't just a monster.
Exactly. It's the undeniable proof that the past in this world refuses to stay buried.
You're listening to Deep Cuts and Deep Thinking. Today we are stripping away the cozy, romanticized veneer of Wuthering Heights to look at the hostile, feral, and deeply psychological reality of the text.
We're going to prove to you that this isn't a story about love conquering all.
No, it's an autopsy of love, mutating into a force of total destruction.
And to understand how an obsession becomes that destructive, we really have to look closely at the incubator it grew in.
The house itself.
Right. The physical environment of Wuthering Heights, the architecture, the isolation, the sheer hostility of the setting, these aren't just background details. They actively shape the violent psyches of the people trapped inside.
Yeah, if this obsession outlives the graves, we definitely need to examine the physical space that bred it, because it is a literal fortress.
Oh, absolutely.
When Lockwood first arrives to meet his landlord, he describes it as a misanthropist's heaven.
Yeah.
Like it is completely removed from the stir of society.
So just out there in the middle of nowhere.
Built on a bleak hill to withstand intense northern storms. The architect had to build it incredibly strong, so the windows are deeply set into the walls, and the corners are defended with these massive, jutting stones.
It looks less like a home and more like a military bunker.
Exactly. And the welcome you receive is just as forbidding.
Yeah, above the principal door, there's this wilderness of crumbling griffins and grotesque carvings of shameless little boys.
So creepy.
Right. And it's ancient, it's decaying, and it projects an aura of extreme hostility before you even turn the handle.
And that's before you even get inside. I mean, when you step through the door, there's no lobby, no polite transition space. You are immediately thrust into the family sitting room, which they just call the house.
And the domestic greeting is wild.
It's a swarm of squealing puppies, a huge liver-colored pointer, and these grim, shaggy sheepdogs that just lurk in the shadows.
They're not exactly friendly pets.
No, and they don't just bark. When Lockwood makes faces at them, they violently attack him. He actually describes them acting like possessed swine. He literally has to fight them off with a poker.
Exactly. The domestic sphere, which is supposed to be a place of warmth and safety, is guarded by feral beasts. And what's fascinating here is how Bronte's own isolation informs this. Living out on the remote Yorkshire moors herself, she understood that when you are that cut off from the polite rules of society, the environment strips you down to your most primal instincts.
It's not just a pressure cooker. It's like psychological sensory deprivation.
Oh, I like that analogy.
When you are completely cut off from external society, your brain starts hallucinating its own reality to fill the void. The house deprives them of normal social feedback.
Right. There's no one around to say, hey, your behavior is incredibly toxic.
Exactly. So their relationships mutate into these distorted, oversized hallucinations. But wait, hold on. I have to push back here for a second.
Sure, go for it.
Because Lockwood specifically notes that Heathcliff looks like a dark-skinned gypsy in aspect, but in dress and manners, he presents as a gentleman.
He does.
He has an erect, handsome figure. So if his environment is so feral and isolated, how is he pulling off this civilized disguise? Am I missing something here?
Well, that is the ultimate camouflage. And it's exactly why Lockwood is so thoroughly fooled initially. Heathcliff's gentlemanly attire is a weapon.
Oh, weapon.
Yeah. He acquired wealth and the trappings of respectability during his mysterious absence, specifically so he could return and dismantle his enemies using their own societal rules.
That makes a lot of sense.
But the house gives the lie to his clothes. The forbidding architecture, the bolted doors, the vicious dogs, they are the true physical extensions of Heathcliff's fiercely guarded, resentful inner world. He keeps his feral humanity locked away just as tightly as he keeps his gates chained.
Okay, let's unpack this, because that brings us back to Lockwood. Why would a man repeatedly force himself into a house where even the dogs want to tear him apart?
Because Lockwood is a tourist of desolation.
A tourist of desolation, I love that.
He admits he is someone who shrinks icily away from human connection. He tells this story about a seaside romance where the moment the woman showed interest, he shrunk into himself like a snail until she doubted her own senses and left.
So he's self-sabotaging.
Completely. He views himself as a deliberate loner, which is why he's drawn to Heathcliff. He thinks they are a suitable pair to divide the isolation.
But he wants the aesthetic of isolation without the actual madness it breeds. If the environment is designed to keep the world out, like a sensory deprivation tank, then whoever is locked inside that tank with you becomes your entire universe.
Bingo.
And that explains exactly why the dynamic between Heathcliff and Catherine was so volatile. We really have to examine how this extreme isolation warped the relationship from the very beginning.
Yeah, to understand the bloody ghost at the window, we have to understand the traumatized children they were. Nellie Dean, the housekeeper, recounts their history.
Right.
Heathcliff is brought to the house as an outsider. He is a dark, almost nameless presence. I mean, Heathcliff serves as both his first and last name.
He doesn't even get a full name.
No, he is stripped of a true societal identity. He is essentially a void in the social hierarchy.
He has no lineage, no anchor, no property. And the household dynamics that surround him are just fiercely polarized.
Definitely.
On one side, you have Hindley, Catherine's brother, who harbors this absolute burning hatred for Heathcliff. Hindley subjects him to severe physical violence and degradation, essentially treating him like a beast of burden.
It's horrific abuse.
But then on the other side, you have Catherine. And Catherine forms this intense, inseparable, almost twin-like bond with him. They are entirely united against the rest of the world.
It's a trauma bond, right? Forged for sheer survival in a hostile environment. But as they grow older, the outside world inevitably begins to intrude.
It always does.
Catherine gets a taste of refined society at Thrushcross Grange, the home of the wealthy Linton family. She starts spending time there, getting pampered, learning manners, leaving Heathcliff behind in the dirt and the physical abuse of Wuthering Heights.
And this leads to one of the most revealing and honestly chilling moments in their dynamic, the Almanac scene.
Oh yes, the Almanac.
Catherine comes back to the Heights, and Heathcliff points to a framed sheet on the wall. He has been literally tracking her allegiances.
It's so calculating.
He uses crosses to mark the evenings she spends with the civilized Linton family, and dots for the days she spends with him. And he tells her he's doing it to show that he takes notice.
It's entirely mathematical. It's a ledger of her affection.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Think about how our modern pop culture frames relationships. We're constantly sold this idea of Heathcliff and Cathy as the ultimate relationship goals.
Right, the tragic lovers.
The passionately devoted soulmates. But look at the Almanac. That isn't a gesture of sweet devotion. It's a calculating accounting of a pathological need for control. He is literally tallying up her betrayals.
True, but we have to ask why he's doing it, you know? Explain how trauma makes people quantify love.
Okay, fair point.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to remember Heathcliff's total lack of identity. When you have no legal standing, no family name, and no wealth, you have no anchor in reality.
You're just float.
You are constantly on the verge of being erased. So what do? You turn your only relationship into a ledger. Because math is objective. Math is the only thing that can't abandon you.
Wow. So the Almanac is an accounting system for his own survival?
Exactly. Therefore, when Catherine chooses to spend time at the refined Thrushcross Grange, it isn't just a betrayal of their childhood friendship. It is a literal threat to Heathcliff's entire existence.
Because without her.
If she leaves him for the Lintons, his one tie to humanity is severed. He ceases to matter. He becomes nothing.
It's an existential crisis masked as a lover's quarrel. He is literally fighting for his life. And Catherine, she is caught right in the crossfire.
Yeah, she really is.
She is trying to inhabit two entirely different worlds. She wants the wild, untamed passion of Wuthering Heights with Heathcliff, but she also wants the civilized, wealthy, socially acceptable life of Thrushcross Grange with Edgar Linton.
But the human psyche cannot sustain that kind of profound division.
No, it's impossible.
Her attempt to be both Catherine Earnshaw of the savage moors and Mrs. Linton of the refined Grange culminates in a literal fracturing of her mind. That split allegiance is what ultimately destroys her from the inside out.
Her descent into madness is genuinely terrifying to read. It happens in the dead of winter. She is burning with a brain fever, utterly consumed by this internal war.
It's so visceral.
And she begins to exhibit this raw, animalistic behavior. She dashes her head against the arm of the sofa.
Just completely feral.
It's like watching a wild animal that has realized it's trapped in a cage of its own making.
And in the midst of this feverish bewilderment, she demands that the window be opened.
Even though it's freezing.
Right, the wind is blowing strong and freezing from the northeast, bringing the snow directly in, but she doesn't care. She is suffocating in the soft refinement of the Grange. She needs the freezing air of Wuthering Heights just to breathe. She's desperate for her native element.
But the absolute climax of this delirium, the moment that truly seals her fate, happens at midnight. She is staring across the room, and she becomes fixated on the mirror.
This scene is incredible.
It really is. Because she doesn't know it's a mirror, she looks into the glass, and she shrieks in absolute, unadulterated terror. She thinks the room is haunted. She tells Nellie, it's behind there still, and it's stirred. Who is it?
She doesn't recognize her own reflection.
So what does this all mean? Why does not recognizing her reflection mean her soul is inextricably tied to Heathcliff? I mean, she's feverish, sure, but to completely lose your own face.
Well, we have to look at how identity is actually formed. Identity is programmed by our environment. Her internal operating system was programmed by the savage dirt of the moors, the violence of her brother, and her unbreakable survival bond with Heathcliff.
Right, that makes sense.
That's her base code. But the mirror at the Grange reflects a woman defined by polite society, silk dresses, and Edgar Linton's wealth.
Ah, I see.
Right. When the hardware doesn't match the software, the human system crashes. She physically cannot reconcile the feral child she knows herself to be with the refined lady staring back at her in the glass.
Wow.
The reflection is a complete stranger because her true self has been left behind.
That is the ultimate tragedy of the entire text. She has lost herself entirely.
Which raises an important question, and it brings our entire deep dive full circle back to the very beginning.
Back to the nightmare.
Back to Lockwood, trapped in the oak closet, tracing the names scratched into the paint. Catherine Earnshaw, Catherine Heathcliff, Catherine Linton.
The three names, the three identities she tried to wear.
Exactly. She was an Earnshaw by birth, she longed to be a Heathcliff by soul, and she became a Linton by marriage. But she could never reconcile them.
Never.
The mirror showed her the fractured reality of her choices. And so we have to look again at the crying ghost at the window in Lockwood's nightmare, the ice-cold hand reaching through the broken glass crying, I'm Catherine Linton, I've lost my way on the moor.
It wasn't just a spooky apparition to kick off a ghost story. It wasn't just a scare tactic.
No, it was the fragmented, lost piece of Catherine's soul. The part of her that never left Wuthering Heights, forever trapped outside in the freezing storm, begging to be let back into the only environment where she actually made sense.
Emily Brontë's book is a masterful, devastating dissection of what happens when love mutates into an all-consuming destructive force. Wuthering Heights, the physical place, isolates its inhabitants.
It acts as a catalyst.
Exactly, a catalyst for trauma, for physical violence, and for a haunting inability to let go. The characters don't just love each other, they consume each other. And when they can't have each other, they destroy themselves and absolutely everyone around them.
And that is a vital insight for you listening to this right now. In today's world, toxic, obsessive relationships are so frequently romanticized in media.
Way too often.
We are taught to look at grand, destructive gestures or intense jealousy as the ultimate proof of true love. But this text challenges you to look much closer. It forces you to examine the incredibly fine line between passionate love and total, violent possession.
Because there is a line.
Absolutely. Heathcliff and Catherine's bond might be transcendent, yes, but it's also a virulent disease that infects generations.
It's a disease that bleeds literally onto the bedclothes. Which brings us back to Lockwood, sitting in that dark, oak-paneled bed, rubbing a child's wrist over broken glass in a fit of absolute terror.
A horrifying image.
He was so confronted by raw, feral emotion that his civilized facade shattered instantly into barbarism. And it leaves you with a lingering provocative thought to take away today.
What's that?
If Lockwood hadn't reacted to the nightmare with such brutal violence, if he hadn't sawed the specter's wrist on the jagged pane, but had actually shown a moment of human warmth, reached out, and let the lost soul in, would the tragic haunting cycle of Wuthering Heights have finally been broken?
That's a profound thought.
Or would the house, and the obsessive madness within it, have simply consumed him too?
It's the ultimate question of the moors. Does compassion cure the hauntings we create, or does the storm just swallow everyone who dares to open the window?
If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe.